Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we're going to be discussing solving equations. And first of all, make sure that you have your math journal as well as your vocabulary packet. Our target today is I can find the multiplicative inverse of a fraction, or in other terms, we call it a reciprocal. So first of all, let's talk about what is a reciprocal, or what is the multiplicative inverse of a fraction. Well, I like to think of a reciprocal or a multiplicative inverse is a switch. So think of a switch, and when you are switching something on, it was off at the time and you switched it on. Well, if it's on and you wanted to switch it off, then you switch it down and now it's off. And so what it's doing is it's flipping it to what its inverse is. So if it's on, its inverse would be off, and so you're switching it to off. And if it's off, its inverse would be on. Well, same thing with these horses. This horse is facing to the right. If I switch the horse, it is now facing to the left. So a multiplicative inverse, or a reciprocal, is basically switching the numerator and the denominator. And so and I can actually write that down for you, switching the numerator and denominator of a fraction. Now, let's look at a problem. If I have 2/5, well, the numerator right now is what? The numerator is 2, you're correct, and the denominator is 5. Well, switching that, or finding the multiplicative inverse, means to switch it. So instead of 2/5, now the multiplicative inverse, or the reciprocal, would be, the opposite is 5, yeah, halves. And here's how I know that it is true. If I multiply these two fractions together, there is something true about every multiplicative inverse or every reciprocal. When you multiply it by its original fraction, what happens is you automatically get 1. And so let's try it. If I multiply 2 times 5, I get 10. And if I do 5 times 2, I get 10. Well, what's 10 tenths? It is equivalent to 1 whole. And so I know that these two are multiplicative inverses of each other. I know that they are reciprocals of each other, because when I multiply them together, I get 1 whole. Well, let's try a mixed number. What if I have 2 and 1/3? What is the numerator of this fraction? And listen carefully to what I'm asking. What is the numerator of this fraction? First of all, is this a fraction? No. And I know some of you were saying that 1 is the answer. But this is a mixed number. It's not a fraction. What do you think we have to do to a mixed number before we figure out what the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal is? Yeah, we need to change it to a fraction. So if I have 2 and 1/3, and I want to change that to a fraction, remember the steps we're going to do? We're going to take our 2 wholes multiplied by how many pieces they're separated into. So 2 times 3 is 6. So we have 6/3 plus 1 more extra. We have 7/3. And so I know that the fraction that 2 and 1/3 is equivalent to is 7/3. Now, what is the multiplicative inverse of this? Yes, it is 3 sevenths. And the way that I know this is because if I multiply them together, I know that 7 times 3 is 21, and 3 times 7 is 21. And so 21 21st is the same as or equivalent to 1 whole. And so I know that 3 sevenths is equivalent to 2 1/3. Or it's equivalent to 7/3, which is what the improper fraction is. How about the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal of 16? What would that be? Well, 16, is it a fraction? The way that it is right now, is it a fraction? No, it's not. So we need to make it a fraction. What would it be as a fraction? Yes, it would be 16 firsts, or 16 over 1. And so if I have it as a fraction, now what is the multiplicative inverse, or the reciprocal of it? 1, nice job, 1/16. Good job. Wonderful. And I know this to be true because when I multiply them together, I get 16 over 16, which is 1 whole. Now, what I would like you to do as ticket problems, I would like you to tell me the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal of these 4 fractions or mixed numbers. Thank you so much for joining me at Carlton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again.